Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Gianetti, Editor-in-Chief of Homepage News, and welcome to another episode of Truth on Trend, a special series featuring the home and housewares industry's most influential trend experts, examining the real story behind today's most compelling trend developments and opportunities. I'm joined again by my Truth on Trend co-host, Tom Mirabli, founder of Springboard Futures and trend forecaster for Homepage News and the International Housewares Association. Our guest today is Nancy Fire of Nancy Fire Designs. Nancy is a pioneering authority on sustainable design for the home and housewares business. She and Tom will reveal the keys to developing and marketing authentic, sustainable design, or as Nancy often classifies it, mindful design, for today's environmentally conscious marketplace. Nancy, welcome to Truth on Trend. Tom, it's great to see you again. You know, you talk about getting started, Nancy. A lot of these companies don't already have an internal, organization for really reviewing, evaluating, implementing, and enforcing a sustainable practice. But there are a lot of partnerships opportunities out there, and I think that's is that an important thing for most of these companies to understand? You can work with other specialists in this business right now.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's a beautiful thing. And every month I find a new organization that calls me. So yesterday I just reaffirmed my relationship with the GFDA, which is the Good Furniture Alliance. And what they do is they're a network of architects, interior designers, builders, landscapers, makers, and retailers. They're committed to reducing their contribution to minimizing waste product in the industry. And the way they do that is they have a space where people bring old windows, doors, countertops, tiles, and you're able to go there and utilize those products. So this way they're being recycled, they're being upcycled. They're great, they're out of San Francisco, and they're definitely gaining a lot of traction. I'm hoping to open up a membership area in New York and also Long Island for them, because I just think that they're fantastic. I think they've only been around for 5 years. Then there's something I found recently, which is recyclednation.com. And literally you go online, and this helps anyone. You want to recycle fabric, you put in your zip code. I did it yesterday to test it again. And there are 3 places within 5 miles of my house that I could bring that fabric to. So these entities will help the single consumer that wants to do something. It will help the retailer. I mean, one company, which I thought was amazing, I contacted a guy 2 weeks ago. It's called upcycleforgood.org. His son inspired him to do this. He started a nonprofit where he'll go to a retailer like a TJ Maxx, and he'll say to the retailer, hey, what do you have? I'm working with a shelter in Long Island and they need this. And the retailer will send sweaters, they'll send microwaves, because if they don't get rid of their product, they dump it. And where does it go? In the landfill. So all these organizations, I think, make all of us better in what we're trying to do going forward.
Nancy, Peter and I had asked you yesterday if you would put together a resource page, and I think we're going to put that at the end of this, a slide that give some of the resources and what they do.
Yes, I'd love to do that.
Tom, this almost speaks to the growth of markets for like secondary ownership, used products, rental products, other ways that are helping keep product from the landfill prematurely.
Yeah. Well, and also I think that secondary markets, and by that, I mean, we're talking about people who buy something secondhand instead of buying new, are companies that, even companies that sort of, you remember when we were kids and used to go to the grocery store and pick up a carpet cleaner, right? Before carpet, that type of thing where you can rent something that you don't necessarily, either you can't afford to or don't want to own because you don't use it enough. So it's almost like, it's almost like sharing. So there's, secondary markets, and then there's sharing markets that are evolving. But these are amazing things. And I think that brands resist them in a way, but really it's an opportunity to get your product into the hands of people that haven't tried it yet. And so when they decide to own it for regular use, they've tried your product. We'll give some information. I believe the company is called Tulo. That does that, and I mean, beautiful setup. Everything from air fryers to
and talk about transparency, right? Here's my product, try it, and if you like,
and what's great is they're not just doing it to people; they're marketing to small businesses in the area. So it has a very community feel to it, And
Yeah.
it really feels like you're, and it's well serviced. So you're not getting something that's like, oh my gosh, this has the last person's,
Yeah.
dirty stuff in it. It's like, so it's rebuilding organizations that we know people are comfortable with and giving them
Yeah.
alternate ways to be responsible.
Well, it's
Think-
funny.
yeah.
You want to convince a traditional business built on selling more stuff and selling it more frequently. We're not looking to change that per se, but we're trying to acknowledge that there's another factor at work here. Consumers are going to make choices
Absolutely.
based on these things. And if you're in this industry, you want to be in their vision. You want to be in their brain when they're making those choices. So whether it's building a longer term sale for the future or just engaging in product exchanges, all these things add up to a long-term relationship with the consumer that will keep them coming back when it's time to get new products.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's an understanding now, I think, among consumers where I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but it's like it used to be this idea of an ice age or climate change was something that our kids will be worrying about. And now we see it. Now it is on the horizon. We see it down the road, and it's something real, So, you're dealing with when you look at millennials and their relationship to the future. Right now, you've got about 42% of millennials have kids. By 2030, 80% of millennials will have kids. That changes the public conception of the importance of the future, because now it's my kids that's whose future you're talking about. So it's another reason why it's a mandate, like you said.
Tom mentioned recyclability programs that he's working with. Nancy, are there any new developments in material that people should be aware of right now going forward?
Oh, there are so many great developments. So basically, I'm going to name a few. Cork. So cork is sustainable, and that's something that people have been using. Now they're spinning it into thread. So basically, you got cork thread that's become lighting.
Really?
Mushroom. Yeah, it's amazing. I think actually they're doing it in the Netherlands, of course.
Cork is all over style too. I mean, it's everywhere. It's so stylish.
It is everywhere, and it's been. I remember Maison before the pandemic in 2019. It was really, it was really becoming strong. Mushroom fiber is really strong, so people are utilizing that. Look at Stella McCartney with what she's working, and also in home. Bamboo and hemp, even more so than organic cotton. Organic cotton's great, but it takes a lot of water to utilize that. Natural stone. People forget stone is natural. Reclaimed wood, and you know what? Sunlight. So if you open up your home, your apartment, and you have space for the sun to come in, that's a natural resource. So that is a material. And a lot of people don't look at it that way, but I think that's the best material because you have natural light. So you don't have to use as much electricity. Your plants grow indoor and outdoor. The trend for the past 5 years has been bring the outdoors indoors, right?
Yeah.
People are planting trees in their homes.
Yeah.
There are new homes that have trees and everything is very green. So sunlight to me is really, really important.
It's changing the style aesthetic to some degree, Tom, right?
Yes,
Too? I mean,
yes.
Well, I think there was a time, where I think there was a time when we thought, okay, it's sort of like food. For it to be good for you, it has to be awful, So if I'm buying responsibly, it's going to be like granola. We used to call, they're tree huggers, or it's all going to be brown.
It was peace, love, and granola.
And it's not right. It's not, it's not that way anymore. Not at all. I mean, the Cork, for example, Cork was all over Paris, London Design Week, Milan. I mean, it was everywhere in home and in housewares. People like, not Casabella, I'm forgetting who it is, but there are companies who are putting out cork mats and looking at the home industry holistically. So if I sell dinnerware, well, I'm going to sell mats made out of cork, and people who are doing bakeware that has cork tops that you can store in, and then you use it underneath as a trivet. It's integrating. I love that we're trying to integrate more responsible materials into our lines, and the consumer loves it because we're treating the experience of being a cook or a baker or a diner as a holistic experience, and not just thinking about the process that we are in at that moment. So
absolutely, I totally agree. In fact, I remember getting a ceramic and cork mug in Berlin probably 8 years ago, and I still have them, and they're so fabulous. And it's again mixing of substrates, but cork to me is the grounding part of it. And I think the housewares industry, the next 5 years, you're going to see amazing product coming
Mhm.
in that is mindful, and people are going to really respond. And even if the price point's a little higher, it's going to last longer, so they're going to buy it because they realize it's a good product and it's made well and it's sourced sustainably.
Money is look, no question that some of these products are some of the products can be more expensive either because of material or because of where it's manufactured. But one of the interesting things that we're seeing is that across generations there is, and I mean, we're talking from not just across generations, but across income levels. From 50,000, we did consumers from $50,000 up to $250,000 average household income. And there was no more than a 2-point difference in the number of people who said that buying responsibly was important. So the commitment's there, and we make choices, right? You make choices, something's going to last longer. You're less resistant to paying for it.
As we look to kind of to wrap up this discussion, it's been fascinating because I think people aren't necessarily aware of all the elements and all the factors at play here in being what I like to say authentically, genuinely sustainable. Nancy, how does a company like yours or other companies in that same realm kind of play a role in getting this, not just the conversation started, but getting it moving into action? And then I'm going to kind of direct the last question to both of you, or what are sort of the must-dos? We talked a little bit about how to get started, but what are some of the must-dos that a company has to do? Take me through the 2 or 3 other items on that checklist to indicate that you're actually in this and you're in it for real. But talk about Nancy Fire Designs and how that sort of factors into all of this.
Well, I think for me, my original company is DesignWorks International, where we do a lot of product design, where Ghost Design is behind a lot of product in the industry. So about 5 years ago, I just had this epiphany. And I said, if I'm going to stay in this industry, I want to do something that gives back to the environment, because what we're doing is really the opposite. So 5 years ago, I became very sort of enthralled in this whole sustainable movement. What is mindful design? And I started consulting, I started reading, I started researching. I'm on the board of the FSC, which is the Sustainable Furnishings Council at High Point, and I started to educate myself. So people find me and they work with me on either small projects, or right now I'm working with a large retailer on ways that they can truly become more sustainable. And we have a 10-year plan. So it's not like it's going to happen overnight. So people come to me through my website, through word of mouth. I do a lot of work at High Point Market, so I'm there all the time doing seminars. My last seminar was Products with Purpose, and I actually got manufacturers and artisans to work together on products going forward. So I think that's how people, like how I'm involved in the industry. And then Tom, I don't know if you want to, and then I
think for me, it's, the golden rules right now are, stay abreast of what consumers want. It all goes back to, we all want, there are 2 things you have to keep an eye on. One is, what's the biggest impact that as a retailer or as a manufacturer I can make environmentally? And that involves getting a partner and helping you figure that out, because a lot of people try to do it on their own. Oh, let's do less of this, or let's do more of that. Well, that's nice, but now it's got to be more strategic. It's got to be being responsible, being it has to be a part of your corporate strategy.
Yeah,
whoever, even if you're a mom and pop. And then the other thing is, so and so you need to understand what's the biggest impact you can make, but you also really need to listen to consumers and see what they understand, because sometimes companies make a big impact that the consumer just can't relate to. Keep it simple, big things like using less water, and in our industry, there are a lot of things that we cannot, there are a lot of things because of the things that we make that we cannot immediately make better. Find partnerships, do good, because people appreciate the fact that you're trying to make it better. And in the interim, until we've had the technology to make it better, then find partnerships with, there's so many people who are doing great for the environment. It could be carbon offsets, it could be, so partnerships are critical to this. Don't try to do it on your own. Find people who are reliable, who have a great reputation with the consumer, and work with them. Create partnerships.
Sorry. My
No,
five key, yeah, I was gonna say, my 5 key mantra points really are transparency, which is really storytelling
important.
and fair labor, life cycle of a product, the circularity, be mindful of what that is, accountability and pressure, because that is significant change, as we spoke about before. Invest in manufacturing. You can invest, because in the end, you're gonna get that return. And set up recycling programs. If you're a manufacturer, set up a program so those products could come back to you. And if they can't come back to you, who is doing that so that the consumer can send and feel good about that product to send it to that company, and they know that it's not going in a landfill, it's going to be recycled. So there's so many points, but those are like my 5 key mantra points, which I think are really important for anyone.
What was your number
starting
4
out.
again, Nancy?
Invest in manufacturing.
Yeah. Tom,
Invest.
you've made a point to people. Don't be afraid to pressure the source. If it's a retailer, pressure the vendor. If it's a vendor, pressure the distributor, the distributor, the factory. That pressure, if it's handled, appropriately, sensitively, if you will.
Yeah, it's not
do
a
it the
threat.
right way. Yeah.
It's not a threat, but and it's easy to exert that pressure because you've got the consumer behind you.
Yeah.
All you have to say is, to stay relevant to who I'm selling to, I have to work with people who do this.
Right.
It's not even my choice. If you can't do this, I have to limit my exposure by limiting the work I do with you. It's very understandable. And there's a lot of data to support it.
Yeah. But the most important thing is gaining realistic trust.
Right.
So if your consumer trusts you, they're going to follow you. If your content is correct and you're not greenwashing, then you have a consumer for life. And that's what I think today is most important, because, look at retail today, right? You really want to be on the money. You want to understand your consumer, but more so, you want to make sure that you're mindful of everything you're doing to get to the end result of this product that hopefully will have circularity, that will go back to where it comes from, or at least it has a home somewhere that's being recycled or reclaimed. So,
and you really only have 2 choices when you add all this up. You can either educate or you can alienate. And you have, as someone in this business, you better ask yourself which one of those you want to be involved with. I want to thank Nancy Fire, Nancy Fire Design, Tom Moravli, Springboard Futures. I think they've given us something to be mindful of as we explore this issue of sustainability going forward. It doesn't stop here. We'll be talking about it a lot more in the future.
Fantastic.
For everyone else, I'm Peter Gianetti at Homepage News. We will see you next time on Truth on Trend. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.